Good evening to you. Today we're going to talk about access modifiers, and there's quite a bit to actually talk about because access modifiers make Java very powerful, and yet at the same time they can also make things very confusing. Now, the first thing you're going to notice with my example here is that I have a lot of code that just doesn't make sense because I've named things just really crazy names. But as we go through this video, I want us to focus just on small parts at a time. That's what's really important. First thing I want you to know is that the public class that contains the main method here is the myFirstClass class. Okay, this class is public. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to another Java file called another myFirstPackage class. That's located in the myFirstPackage package. It's not in the same package as the myFirstClass Java file, which has the main method. Now, if you'll notice, the class itself is public, which means it can be accessed by any other classes in that package or outside that package. Integer x is also public. It can be accessed by any other classes in this package or outside this package. However, integer y has no modifier typed in front of it. That immediately makes it default, which means it can only be accessed by other classes in the myFirstPackage package. Integer w is private. That means that only methods inside the class, another myFirstPackage class, can access w. So when you make something private, you make it such that only a method inside the class can access that particular variable. String z is protected. Now, what does protected mean? Well, protected means that anything in the package can access string z, but also so can any subclass access z. Okay, so we're going to have to get a feel for this, how this works. Protected is along the lines, let's go to the website here real quick. We've got this quick table, which is nice for us. If we go to protected, we know that the class has access to anything protected, the package has access to anything protected, and any subclass has access to a variable that's protected, but not the world, meaning things not in that same package. Okay? So what I do is I go back to myFirstClass.java, and notice I create an object called myObject2, and it's a type of another myFirstPackage class. So there's the constructor. I create the object, and what I end up doing is I end up printing out the x variable. Now let's see what Java Beans will let me access. I type in the dot, and it will only let me access the x. Why won't it let me access anything else? Well, let's go back. X is public. Y is default. And since myFirstClass.java is not in the same package, it does not have access to y because y is default. Private integer x is the most restricted, or integer w is the most restricted kind, because only anything inside another myFirstPackage class can actually access the variable w. And then string z is protected. So first of all, only things inside the class can access it, or only subclasses. Okay? Now, notice down here, I created two other classes that are not public. As a matter of fact, the Java file where you have your main method, okay, you can only have one public class. That's a Java rule. You can only have one public class. So these two classes here, Susan and Anna, can't be public. Well, since they have no modifier in front of them, that immediately makes them default. which means that only classes inside the default class, where the my first class Java file is located, can access Susan and Anna. Notice also that Anna is a class that extends Susan. I create an Anna object up here, and when I get to the print line here, I print out my Anna object and my variable Q, which, by the way, is created from Susan, and that's protected. Well, why can I access Susan's Q variable? Well, that's because Anna is a subclass of Susan, and Anna is contained in the same package as Susan, so Anna can access this. But now we're going to do something really different. What if I clip out Susan, I take her all the way can only have one public class here. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So right now Susan is default. Okay, so only things in that class can access her. Alright. Now right here it says class Anna extends Susan. And right now there doesn't seem to be a problem with that. Now there's a problem. Go to here, can't find the symbol, variable Q. Go down here. My first package Susan is not public, cannot be accessed from outside the package. Okay, well let's go ahead and clip Susan. And let's go to my first package, create a new Java class, and we're going to call it Susan. Alright. Now, Susan again contains a protected Q, string Q. I'm in the Susan class. Okay, so far so good, huh? Let's go back to my first class. Now, Anna extends Susan. So, notice there's still a problem though. Q has protected access in my first package, Susan. Well, okay, let's go back to Susan. Here's the protected string Q, and here's Anna, and it extends Susan. And then you might ask me, well, wait a minute, I thought you just told me from this table right here that if a variable is protected, that any subclass will have access to that variable. And that's absolutely correct. But there's a further revision here. Any other subclass that's also contained in the same package. That's the key. So it's true that Anna does extend Susan, but Anna is not in the same package as Susan is. And so even though Anna extends Susan, it does not have access to the protected string Q. Oh boy, access modifiers can get quite confusing. They're really powerful when you understand them, but you've got to play around with them quite a bit before they really start to sink in and make sense. They've really got to sink in with a lot of practice. So many times, you know, it's really good just to make up your own series of packages, make a bunch of Java files like I've done here. You know, you can give them wacky names, you know, whatever you want, and just play with the extends keyword and see what you can do, see what you have access to, and see what you don't have access to. Now, if I click on Anna object and hit the dot, all of these methods here, you may ask, well, wait a minute, where are all these coming from? Well, these get all inherited from anything that's an object in Java. The moment you create an object, you magically inherit all these other methods right here, which, you know, we'll get into them eventually. But anyways, this has just been a very brief video talking about, you know, trying to get a feel for what it means to be public, what it means to be default, what it means to be private, what it means to be protected. We probably need to talk a little bit more about the private keyword, but I think this is a good place to stop for now. Okay? God bless you, wherever you are tonight.